Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video is going to be about some of the books coming out in February that I'm particularly excited about. So this is pretty heavy on fantasy and thrillers for some reason. I don't know why. Let's just jump right in, going from the earliest release date to the latest. So we'll start with the February 4th releases. And the first book I'll talk about here is Alone in the Wild by Kelley Armstrong. This is the 5th book in the Casey Duncan or Rockton series. I talked about the 4th book, Watch from the Woods, fairly recently on my channel since it made my favorite thrillers of 2019. There's basically a secret town near the Yukon where people can pay to disappear. So if they're on the run for whatever reason, they can go to live in this town. And so Casey in the first book goes with her best friend, since her best friend's on the run from her abusive husband, and serves as this town's detective. So evidently in this book, Casey finds a woman buried under the snow with a baby, and the baby is still alive. So this town only lets people over the age of 18 in, so they have to, I guess, figure out how to actually take care of this child. And again, solve the murder and figure out whose baby is this. Really love this thriller series. Kelley Armstrong is one of my favorite authors, so I'm very excited for this book. I've actually already pre-ordered it, so I'm ready to read it. The next book I'll talk about that comes out February 4th is Things in Jars by Jess. I think this is a mystery with some maybe hints of the supernatural. Our main character is a female detective. She's hired to find the daughter of, I think, some sort of man, and this kid evidently has some sort of supernatural powers. And I guess people are after this kid because collectors are trading curiosities in this age of discovery. So this is in Victorian London. Our female detective is joined by a group of characters, including a 7-foot-tall housemaid, a tattoo-covered ghost, and an apothecary. So there's a foggy underworld setting. It's a gothic mystery that collapses the boundary between fact and fairy tale. This sounds pretty interesting. I do love the combination of these sort of themes, I guess, so I'm hopeful that this will be good. The next book I'll talk about on February 4th is The Heart of Blood and Ashes by Milla Vane. So this is a fantasy romance from what I remember of this. There was a short story that she wrote that was in some anthology that I read, and I did really enjoy it, so I'm excited to see how this book is. Basically, we have an alliance between barbarian riders and some sort of walled kingdoms in the south, and that's all that stands against the return of an ancient evil. Oh, until the barbarian king and queen are slain. Oh my. So I think the son of the barbarian king and queen is trying to seek revenge and learns that the daughter of this corrupt king is responsible for his parents' murders, and so he wants to seek revenge against her, but then finds out she's not what he expects. She's the last in line of legendary warrior queens, but she is small and weak, but I guess pretty intelligent, and so that's how, I don't know, that's her weapon of choice, I suppose. And so she proposes marriage to him to unite them because she wants revenge against her own father. So yeah, I think this sounds like a fun fantasy romance setting. Revenge quests can always be entertaining. I'm intrigued by this and I hope it's good. The next book I'll talk about on February 4th is All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. So this is, I think, a YA fantasy, and this is a duology about mermaids. So it looks like our main character is the princess of an island kingdom, and she is training to essentially be the master of souls. The rest of the realm can choose their magic, but she doesn't have a choice. So yeah, in order to be the heir of the throne, she has to prove that she's a master of the soul magic. So things do not go well, so she has to run away and strikes up a deal with a pirate that she'll help him get his stolen magic if he helps her reclaim the throne. So I guess they're going to be sailing around, and there's some sort of new magic on the rise, and they have to face monsters, mermaids, and deal with a stowaway on this ship. So that sounds awesome. I really enjoy books that have mermaids or have to do with the ocean. So I've heard pretty good reviews about this already, so I'm very excited for it. The next book I'll talk about is actually a February 6th release, and that's The Last Smile in Sunder City by Luke Arnold. So you might recognize that name. He plays John Silver in Black Sails on Stars, which was a really great show. This, I think, is an urban fantasy, and our main character, I guess, fought in the war between humans and magical creatures, but, like, he chose the wrong side, and, like, his actions helped drain the world of magic, essentially. He, like, is working on the streets in order to, like, survive and try to help the people whose lives he ruined. And so he is supposed to find a missing teacher who is a vampire, but then a siren also disappears, and then I think he figures out that there's, you know, some monster still lurking in the darkness. So I don't know, it sounds like a really cool urban fantasy. I'm excited to see what this is all about. I really hope it's good. So now we move to February 11th, and the first book I'll talk about here is Stormsong by C.L. Polk, and this is the, like, companion novel / sequel to Witchmark. So I think we follow the sister of the main character from the first book, and she's kind of having to deal with the fallout from events that happened in the first book, but there's no power, I guess, in the city, and a whole bunch of winter storms are on the way. She wants to get her parents to safety, but I guess a queen and a ring of rogue mages stand in the way of her plans, it says. There's a revolution in the air, and I guess a photojournalist is getting close to some of the secrets that, I guess, the, like, people higher up in the government are keeping. And so I think our main character is going to have to, like, you know, figure out how to handle that. But I'm really excited for this. I loved Witchmark. It, you know, made it to one of my top fantasy books of 2019. So I'm really excited to pick up this companion novel. The next February 11th release that I'll talk about is The Boatman's Daughter by Andy Davidson. So this is like a horror fantasy, I think, or a supernatural thriller. So this takes place in the bayou somewhere. I don't know if that's Louisiana or what, but our main character's father was killed when she was a child, so she's kind of like a smuggler, I think, and helps out a preacher and his band of followers. It's just, like, try to make a living and also protect an old witch and some sort of secret child from harm. But then there's, like, some dark forces, not only human, but also supernatural in the bayou, and I guess this preacher demands something crazy. Our main character is forced onto, says, a desperate, dangerous path, and she has to figure out what she's willing to sacrifice in order to keep her loved ones safe. Yeah, so it sounds kind of like a dark supernatural thriller. I'm fairly certain this is coming in my book box this month, so I'm very excited for that. Hopefully I'm correct. I think this will be really interesting. The next book that I'll talk about that comes out February 11th is The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. So this is a fantasy about an orc priestess, and I've heard pretty good reviews about it already, so I'm excited for that. So our main character, I think, is supposed to be sacrificed, actually, and then on the day that she's supposed to, like, gain this honor or whatever, a mage offers her a new fate, and, like, is like, you can come with me and live and be a wizard's assassin. She will become a spy, a thief, and an assassin, and help him regain his power. I don't know if he was, like, the king or what exactly, but it's like, she's going to learn that gods remember, and if you live long enough, all debts come due. So that's cool. I haven't really read that many books that have orcs as main characters, and this just sounds really awesome. I think, yeah, like I said, I've heard really great reviews, and I'm excited for it. The next book I'll talk about, that also comes out for February 11th, is The Chill by Scott Carson, and this seems like another supernatural type thriller. / also horror, possibly. So this is in upstate New York, and there's, like, a drowned village that is over in some sort of, like, reservoir or something like that. So this town was destroyed in order to, like, bring water to the people living downstate, I guess. Or, like, that's what the politicians were insisting, but I'm not sure that was actually, that may have just been a cover-up, it sounds like. So later on, an inspector is hired to, like, I guess, oversee the reconstruction possibly of a dam because it's been neglected, and it's like, it turns out that more than the village was left behind in the waters of the Chill when it was abandoned. The townspeople didn't evacuate without a fight. There's some sort of dark prophecy, and sacrifices have to be made. This sounds kind of creepy. I like horror that has to do with, like, watery locations, so yeah, hopefully this will be good. All right, so now we move to February 18th, and the first book I'll talk about here is Death in the Family by Tessa Wegert, I think. So this seems like a closed circle murder mystery, and it's pitched as perfect for fans of Knives Out, which was a really amazing movie, and I love that. So I'm excited for this. Our main character is a former detective, and it says, barely survived being abducted by a serial killer. And so she's like hoping to leave, I guess, her detective business behind, but she takes a job in the like small town where her fiance is originally from. So a storm is coming in, and so she teams up with a fellow investigator because they get a call about some guy missing on a private island. So they go to this isolated island and start questioning everybody. You know, they find blood on the scene. The family and friends of the people who own this place are kind of like on edge. Our main character thinks it's a murder, but the other investigator thinks it's just like a runaway case. So we've got like this storm happening, and so everybody's, you know, like doing interviews, and everybody has secrets. I think this is going to be a closed circle murder mystery, and I'm very excited. I definitely like this type of murder mystery, and this just sounds awesome. All right, so now we move to February 25th, and the first book I'll talk about here is Imaginary Numbers by Seanan McGuire. So this is book 9, I think, in the Encrypted series, and I've talked about that multiple times on my channel, but this is an urban fantasy series where we mostly follow this family, and they like try to help supernatural creatures, essentially. So this is actually following a new point of view character, and like we've seen her before. She's the adopted cousin, I think, of the main family that we follow. She is actually a cuckoo, and so this is like a supernatural creature that kind of has mind control. And these creatures are like surprisingly obsessed with mathematics, and so I like, you know, being involved in math myself. Like I definitely appreciate that aspect. But so I think this is going to be kind of like a nature versus nurture sort of thing, and it's going to be like the cuckoos versus humans, possibly. I really like this series, so I'm definitely excited to pick this one up. So the last book I'll talk about today is Follow Me by Kathleen Barber, and this comes out February 25th. This is a thriller that has a premise kind of based on social media, and it seems kind of terrifying but interesting. Our main character, I think, works at the Smithsonian and has like hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. So she has recently moved to Washington, D.C. for this new job, and she's trying to impress her new boss, and like interact with her online fans, but evidently, I guess there's this creepy upstairs neighbors that she has. And the only two people she knows are her ex-boyfriend and a sorority sister. I guess her apartment door doesn't really lock all that well. This is the least of her concerns because one of her social media followers has been kind of like obsessively stalking her throughout her online presence. This stalker is going to the dark web to find out how to make our main character like only his. I really hope this is good. It sounds intriguing. So obviously there are more books that come out in February, but these are, you know, a sampling of the ones that I'm particularly excited about. Let me know in the comments if you think you might pick any of these up, or if there are other February releases that you are excited about. I hope you're having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.